Welcome to the Annotated Bibliography Workshop, brought to you by the Writing Center at the Academic Resource Center. So, what is an annotation, you may ask? Well, an annotation is going to be a critical analysis of something that you might have written. And so your annotation will be a paragraph. And in this paragraph, you will summarize the article, the author's purpose, the content, the scope of the work, any questions or comments that might have been brought up about the author's clarity that you've assessed, as well as the overall effectiveness of the article. So therefore, what is an annotated bibliography? Well, an annotated bibliography is a list of citations from books, articles, or any document, right? And after you have listed the citation, you're going to have the annotation. And the annotation is that short paragraph that is the critical analysis, right? That summarizes it and gives the author's purpose and the scope of the article. The purpose of an annotated bibliography is to inform a reader about the quality of an article, its relevance, and accuracy. So how do you write an annotated bibliography? Well, let's take this step by step. Step one, how to begin. So after you've chosen a topic, you want to research and you want to locate sources, meaning that you're looking for books and articles that contain the information about the topic that you have chosen. You also want to make sure that you include information from a variety of perspectives so that you can get a full view of this particular topic. Then you're going to critically read. What does critically read? That means you're reading and you're noting. What is the author's purpose? What is the content? What does the author's mean? Who is the intended audience? That's what we mean when we say the critical reading. Now you're going to cite the source. That's step two. So depending on how your paper is, right, you're going to cite the source using the format typically of MLA or APA, right? You're going to check with your class instructor or your assignment guidelines to make sure you understand which one you're supposed to use. You will begin this annotated bibliography the same way you would a works cited page. So it would be titled Works Cited or References, and the sources would be listed in alphabetical order, and then you would have the annotated paragraph right below it. So now you're thinking for step three, how do you write that annotation? Okay, so think about it. This annotation is a descriptive paragraph, and it can be short, just 5 to 7 sentences or 150 words in length. Sometimes your professors will ask for more because they want you to go a little bit more in depth. But remember, it's a critical analysis, right? You can use quotes or avoid the quotes unless your professor tells you to. What you want to do is, this is your analysis. So you're going to summarize using your own words the important things that you have picked up from this particular piece of information, from this article, from this book, right? From this podcast, from this movie. So when you're writing the annotation, okay, so who is the author and his or her credentials, right? Where it's published, if it's in a journal or not, right? Then you want to examine, why was the article written? What is its purpose? In order to make sure you understand that, you're looking within this writing that you're reading, right? Look at this article and look for the author's thesis. And then after you see the thesis statement, which is the main idea, then look for the supporting points or assertions that the author has made. And then think, does this article have a purpose, right? What is the scope, right? Who is the audience, right, that this article is attempting to reach? What is the content? And then you're going to also assess it. Is this article well organized? Right? What is your overall impression? Is it biased? Is it written to try to convince someone of something, or is it just information? So let's say that you're going to format this annotation using MLA 9. First, you're going to list the annotations in alphabetical order. Each annotation is going to be its own paragraph below its reference. You're going to do like you always would in a works cited page. You're going to indent with the hanging indentation is going to occur on the second and all the subsequent lines. There is, the annotations are usually going to be double spaced, and there's not going to be any extra space between the manner in which you have formatted the citation using MLA 9 formatting and the actual annotation, which is the paragraph summary. Your annotation should be no more than one paragraph. But if you need several paragraphs, indeed each one, but do not add extra space between the paragraphs. And this will be an instance where your professor wants you to go more in depth, because there are instances where for your class, your professor will want you to include a quote from the particular article. And in these instances, you're gonna check your instructor's guidelines on the length and format for your specific assignment. So when you're writing the annotation, think a strong annotation is going to contain the author, the qualifications, and their point of view. A summary of the article, meaning that you look at the author's theses and then the main points they want to make about the theses, look at the content and the scope of what this article was about, the main purpose, and also who is it intended for? Is it intended for a colleague, or is it intended for someone who has never discussed this before? Then within your annotation will be your response to the article. Usually in an annotated bibliography, the student is required to assess a particular source and see how they will use it in their research. So in your annotation, you would actually include a statement. This will be used for. You can also note if you notice any particular bias or skewed information within the article. And then any other questions that you might have about the article and your own knowledge and your own experience. So let's look at an example here. So this is your annotated bibliography. If it is in MLA formatting, notice last name, comma, first name, title, in quotation marks, container, in italics. So it's the normal manner in which you would write a MLA 9 citation. Notice that you have the hanging indent, indented 0.5, right, for the second and subsequent lines. Then when you start your actual annotation, you will do an additional indent and then line them up. And you have this short summary. All right, let's look at this as an APA 7. Okay, so in the APA 7, same thing. You're going to now cite it the same way you would in an APA style. Last name, comma, first initial. Last name, comma, first initial. And then a third author, last name, comma, first initial, the date in parentheses, followed by a period, the article title, just written out, and then the place where the article is placed, your URL. Notice that there's no extra spaces, and then you start the annotation. So we have a practice activity, and the practice activity is located on our Writing Center LibGuides. So you can go to our LibGuides, and when you get to our LibGuides, click on the workshop section, and at the top of the workshop section, you should see a listing for annotated bibliography, and you can click on that, and there's an activity sheets. Thank you for viewing this workshop on annotated bibliographies.